Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
The first 6 months of President Donald Trump's second term at the White House, spanning January to July 2025, have been characterized by an aggressive pursuit of his America First agenda. There have been significant shifts across political, economic and social landscapes. My colleague Shivan Sharma is here to get you all the details. Over to you, Shivan.
All right, now there's a lot to unpack from Trump's first 6 months back in office. Let's begin with his trade policy, which brings us to the tariffs and, of course, the economic repercussions that it caused. Starting with the 2nd of April, Trump declared a national emergency on foreign trade and economic practices, imposing reciprocal tariffs. And then came a countrywide list with allotted tariffs. 3 days later, that is when the 10% baseline tariff on all countries began. Tariff letters were issued to multiple countries, and tariffs up to 50% were also imposed. Which brings us to China. This is the country, the tariffs and counter-tariffs war which went on between the US and China, and the rates actually went up to 245%. That is what Trump brought it to. But finally, the deal for most Chinese products is now at a 30% baseline tariff, along with other tariffs imposed on Chinese products. Now, these tariffs caused contradiction with Trump's stated goals. There was a market crash. There was a major decline in business optimism. Projections of long-term negatives were put out, projected dip in GDPs, and projected losses to the middle class as well. Next, let's talk about Trump's foreign policy, starting with the Russia-Ukraine war. And the biggest promise which came from Trump all through his campaign, he would end the war in 24 hours. Well, 6 months have gone by, and of course, it's debunked one of Trump's biggest claims. Nothing happened in 24 hours. Nothing has happened even in these 6 months. The infamous clash with Zelensky in the White House, that is again something which is a major occurrence during these 6 months, which took place on 28th of February. Public criticism followed after that fallout between the two leaders. Trump asked Europe to raise defense spending and fund Ukraine on their own, a major policy stance which Trump took, and aligned himself with Russia at the UN, which spelled a departure from the traditional Western alignment that US has had all these decades. Trump also expressed anger at Putin eventually after initial positive vibes. And now he vows to send weapons to Ukraine to attack Russia, which essentially means he's going to sell them to NATO. NATO will then provide those weapons to Ukraine. Now, let's talk about the Israel-Gaza conflict going on. Report, of course, the proposed Riviera of the Middle East plan for Gaza. This is what Trump had suggested. He pulled back on that. He continues to advocate for a freedom zone in Gaza. And that is where the stance is in the besieged enclave, where the fighting still continues. The ceasefire is nowhere in place. Israel and Iran, those tensions, Trump had a role there as well. The US had a major role. Trump issued a maximum pressure policy on Iran soon after he came into office. He demanded and threatened for a nuclear deal with Tehran, which has still not happened. He offered unwavering support to Israel against Iran and rejected US military involvement in the Israel-Iran war, but did carry out Operation Midnight Hammer, claiming to obliterate Iran's nuclear facilities. Let's talk about Trump's aid cuts. A major policy move again. Reduced the funding for UN and global institutions, imposed cuts to climate and development programs. Again, something that he had mentioned all through his campaign. He tightened the humanitarian aid criteria and reprioritized military over civilian assistance. Immigration, a big point in Trump's campaign. And of course, in Trump 2.0, as expected, there has been an aggressive border crackdown in the US under Trump 2.0. He signed the Protecting the American People Against Invasion order. This happened on day one after he came back to office. There's been a 94% drop in illegal border crossings in the US. And within 100 days, 66,463 illegal aliens, as they call them, were arrested in the US. All right. And there has been a major Guantanamo detentions which have also been reinstated. He's expanded the travel ban, and that has brought things to the immigration front. Now let's talk about Trump's domestic agenda. He enacted the One Big Beautiful Bill. This happened on the 5th of July and permanently extended his 2017 tax cuts. He launched the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to identify and eliminate government waste, for which Elon Musk was brought on board. And he was on board at least for 130 days. Trump announced cuts to climate and green programs and targeted reductions in social spending. And finally, the big fallouts in Trump 2.0 so far in the first 6 months. Elon Musk, the biggest name. There has been a rapid shift from ally to critic to enemy. Differences triggered by the Big Beautiful Bill and deep divisions which came to the fore post the Doge bonhomie when it collapsed. And Jerome Powell, and of course that is another fallout which has taken place. Trump had a problem with why Powell would not reduce the rates as per Trump. He challenged the independence of the Fed and also talked of the concept of firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, which again he later retracted. That's all for Trump 2.0 in the first 6 months. We will be tracking that closely going forward as well.